now it all depends on whose power field breaks up first.
What's up, friends? I'm back with yet another video, this time to pay homage to the 80s obsession with science fictions. I'm sure one has barely escaped the craze of robots and humanoids in that era, like the E.T. or Mad Max. But do you guys know of yet another American science fantasy which became the talk of the town? Though made on a tight budget, the movie did harness a niche fan base. Let's not keep you guys guessing anymore. Delve into the world of Galaxina, a sexy blonde who'll keep you hooked to the seats. As some admirers say, she's too good to be true. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Introduction. William Sachs scripted and directed Galaxina, a low-budget science fiction comedy which launched in the United States in 1980. Dorothy Stratton, the Playboy playmate of the same year, played the lead role. Unfortunately, her husband killed her not long after the picture hit the theaters, leaving a horrific stain on the movie's legacy. The film is well known for its polite parodies of popular science fiction series, including Star Trek, Alien, and Star Wars. It also featured light-hearted dig at the Western genre of filmmaking by using futuristic elements like spacecrafts and classic cowboy themes, portrayed in costumes, desert-like landscapes, and even the catchphrases. In 1983, Galaxina received the Audience Award at the Brussels International Festival of Fantasy Film, pointing to its positive reception by the viewers. The production, however, encountered a number of difficulties. The movie was originally supposed to be shot over 20 days, but bad weather rendered several of the sets unusable and delayed the production. Thus, a few sequences had to be reshot hastily in order to finish on time. Later, director William Sachs voiced his displeasure with the finished film, describing it as overly slow-paced and implying that it would have been more dynamic had the original footage been kept. Hey, let's look at a fun fact about the film. A particularly notable sequence featured the protagonists watching a scene from the Eastern Bloc sci-fi film of 1960, First Spaceship on Venus, which was included since Crown International Pictures released it in the United States in 1962. So what is it about the 1980s which laid the most conducive time for science fictions like Galaxina? It was the time when science fiction became really popular, Star Wars in 1977 being one of the major trendsetters leading to the fascination with the genre of space and futuristic stories. This craze spilled over into television with shows like Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers in the 25th century, intriguing audiences with their space adventure and special effects. Comedy was also becoming popular, with films like Airplane receiving favorable feedback. Thus, the era became the hotbed for genres of parody, satire, and fantasy flicks. Technologically speaking, filmmaking was at the brink of a change. Special effects were getting more mature, using motion control photography and practical effects. In the meantime, home entertainment was on the rise. VHS and Betamax tapes meant audiences could have movies coming into their homes, and this slowly started changing the way films were distributed and marketed. The rise of arcade games and early computers like the Apple II and Commodore 64 gave shape to popular culture and entertainment. Culturally, the early 1980s were still under the remaining influences of the Vietnam War and the ongoing Cold War that had media filled with themes of war and technological advancement. The women's liberation movement was slowly picking up pace, fighting for better and more equal representation, even if media was still lagging behind and often resorted to the same old gender roles and stereotypes. It is against this background that Galaxina came into existence, with science fiction, campy humor, and satire mixed perfectly. Casting a Playboy playmate showed how people back then had complicated views on celebrities and gender roles. Plot. Set in the future, it was the year 3008, and a misfit group of space travelers boarded the intergalactic space police spacecraft, Infinity, for a routine patrol deep in the universe under the command of Captain Cornelius Butt, who lacked command skills. Riding with him were the mysterious black humanoid creatures with pointed ears and bat wings, Maurice, Private Robert Buzz McHenry, who was an arrogant pilot and his first officer, Sergeant Thor, and Sam, an Asian crew member who constantly quoted Confucius for some reason. In the ship's jail was the alien Rock Eater, who was being kept on a weird diet, and the ship's hostess, a surreally beautiful blonde android, Galaxina. However, the humdrum of the patrol soon gave way to something else when, hiding behind an asteroid, the Infinity witnessed an odd-looking bird-shaped ship passing by them. The regular patrol was no more mundane. It took a turn for the unexpected. The daring Buzz, always eager to know more, gave it a chase, which turned into a tense confrontation with a suspicious-looking masked captain of the bird ship. The Infinity tried to reach out to the other vessel, but the pilot cut them off. This escalated into a brief laser battle until the mysterious ship escaped from them. After the encounter, Galaxina assumed her usual role as the attendant and served Captain Butt, Buzz, and Thor a meal of food pills with chicken flavor, but it was her stunning beauty that appeared to hypnotize the men until a surprising incident happened when Thor got an electric shock while trying to make a pass on her. Meanwhile, back on the ship, Captain Butt was feeling bored over their usual meal and took an interest in the alien egg taken from the mysterious rock-eater prisoner. To his surprise, the egg had an adverse effect, and in the resulting mayhem, Butt found himself coughing up a baby alien monster, which was an uncanny resemblance to the facehugger from Alien. Infinity was then instructed to head for the prison planet Altair 1, where it was to retrieve the Blue Star, a precious stolen gemstone which holds unlimited power. Yes, that was the main mission. Each time the artifact was mentioned, the crew heard an angelic choir. Spooky. The trip lasted for almost 27 years, putting the crew into a cryogenic sleep. But before that, they took a short detour at an asteroid brothel for some relaxation. Galaxina remained awake as the crew entered stasis, and she used the time alone to reinvent herself. She tried to emulate human traits by self-reprogramming, taking up communication skills, and even turning off her electrical defenses. She also made periodic visits to Thor's sleep chamber, professing her undying love for him in her own special way. Meanwhile, the baby alien launched its own secret mission by tampering with the controls in Butt's stasis room. Yes, it was the very same alien which had hatched in Captain Butt's food. The crew eventually awoke at their destination, but was shocked to find a senile and unkempt Captain Butt, thanks to the mischievous alien's meddling. Buckle up, guys, it is time for some romance. Thor found himself inexplicably attracted to Galaxina, who returned his affections even though she lacked the physiological elements required for a romantic affair. She told him they could get customizations from an android catalog when they returned home, and Thor began to fantasize about their future together. Once they arrived at Altair 1, a planet similar to the Wild West, Galaxina decided to find the Blue Star by herself since the local aliens were hostile towards humans. Once inside a human restaurant, she encountered the same masked man they met earlier, Ordric, who happened to possess the treasured Blue Star. In a dangerous encounter, she learned that Ordric, though looked like an odd alien, was in fact a robot and eventually obtained the gemstone after shutting him down. Oh, about that human restaurant? It was a restaurant serving humans as food for aliens. Yeah, I'm scared too. Their triumph, however, was short-lived as Galaxina was kidnapped by a bunch of bikers, the descendants of the first migrants of Altair 1. They planned to sacrifice her to their god, Harley-Davidson, and take the Blue Star in an attempt to conquer the world. After a heroic rescue planned by Thor and Buzz, they were once again at Ordric's mercy as the latter took back the Blue Star and threw them into jail inside the Infinity. The now grown alien offspring, however, thought Butt was its mother and attacked Ordric, giving Butt the keys to the brig, thus freeing them. Once they were free again, the gang pulled together only to find that Rock-Eater had eaten their most precious gem, the Blue Star, thus ending their tedious adventure. Characters: Sergeant Thor. Stephen Mox did a commendable job at his portrayal of Sergeant Thor, a tough but competent crew member. His cynicism and easygoing manner spoke volumes of the layers he adds to the film. Though he appeared as somewhat negligent or rather nonchalant in the beginning, he slowly built an affection and deep sexual interest for Galaxina, the resident gynoid of the ship. Sergeant Thor's impressive abilities and understanding emotions made his character more intriguing. Captain Cornelius Butt. Avery Schreiber, who we all know for his iconic roles in the Doritos commercials, plays Captain Cornelius Butt, the quirky and dim-witted captain of the spaceship Infinity. We could see his strange sense of humor in the manner he tortures the rock-eating alien captivated in the ship. This aspect of his overshadows his incompetence and arrogance. The peculiar and erratic behavior of Captain Butt adds a funny vibe to the Infinity's crew. However, as a captain, his leadership and management skills are pretty questionable. Galaxina. Okay, so here comes the star of the film. Casted in the titular role as the ship's gynoid Galaxina, played by Dorothy Stratton. However, she shines in the role especially in the second half of the movie when she undertakes the daunting yet daring task of getting the blue stone. Galaxina is a lifelike and sensual android who is assigned to host the crew members and look after the captain's interplanetary space police cruiser's activities. As I mentioned before, Galaxina was left alone for a long time after the said mission required the crew to stay in a state of inactivity for decades. She started to experience human-like emotions at this point and even developed feelings for the first officer Thor. Buzz. J.D. Hinton plays a Texan pothead named Buzz in the film who is eager and adventurous in nature. Remember, he was the first one to chase that bizarre bird-like vessel? His easygoing personality defines his character and brings a humorous aspect to the space travel. Most importantly, he is a friend to all. Although Buzz has an interest in drugs, he is also amicable and daring, which strengthens the bonds amongst the crew members of the spacecraft. Winged Girl and Mine. The role of Winged Girl, portrayed by Marilyn Jo, was an unearthly being who the group met while on their perilous space journey. Rhonda Shear, who played both the characters of a mime and a robot, increased the mystery of the film even further. Tropes in the film. How about we look into some interesting tropes that featured in this 80s sci-fi comedy? Let's start. Cargo Cult, a motorcycle cult that worships a Harley-Davidson bike as a deity, is one of Altair 1's cultures. It descended from a biker gang that was banished to the planet years ago. The cult members kneel in adoration as the motorbike passes them rather than fighting them when our heroes utilize it to flee a perilous situation. Global Currency. The cosmic currency used in the movie is called Earth Yen. Being humanitarian. The ingredients of the drinks at the Wild West Planet Saloon are human parts. Leaning on the fourth wall. Whenever the blue star is mentioned, a recurring chorus of music plays. Characters begin to recognize it and respond to it over time. When the sound starts playing unexpectedly during the final battle with the villain, a crew member loses his composure and demands to know who's making the noise. Multiple breasts. A character in the movie, the space hooker, has 3 breasts who caught the interest of our Confucius-obsessed Sam. Self-abuse. Captain Butt warns against having sexual relations with a robot, claiming it will result in blindness. He remarks in a lighthearted way that Galaxina looks like the 1908's Paymate of the Year and that the men will always be blind because she is the only woman on the ship. More serious in hindsight. In one scene, the Infinity spaceship is shown as it exits the frame, leaving in its wake the dead wreckage of a space shuttle that has a huge hole in its side. This uncomfortably draws comparisons to the later horrific Challenger tragedy. Moreover, after consuming a bottle of vintage wine from that year, the ship's captain happily praises 2001 as a wonderful year. However, the events of the real 2001, particularly the horrific 9/11 attacks, would make that statement brutally ironic. Visual effects. The visual elements of Galaxina employ retro-realistic effects from the era, such as the use of matte paints for backdrops and miniature models for spaceships. Its design creates a distinct sci-fi aesthetic of the era with bright lighting and vivid spacecraft interiors. The timeless appeal of Galaxina, a cult classic. Hollywood is sometimes referred to as the land of broken dreams, and Galaxina serves as a gentle reminder of how cruel the business can be when a movie doesn't achieve its expected height of success. However, what radiated the brightest from the movie is the one and only Dorothy Stratton, who rose to fame that same year. Stratton's journey on the screen started with a cameo episode in the show Buck Rogers in the 25th Century and Fantasy Island, which marked her voyage into A-list projects. Though made on a shoestring budget, Stratton's talent and charm anchored the otherwise sinking boat of Galaxina. Though the film may not fulfill all expectations, it nonetheless gives a different experience altogether within its 95 minutes of runtime. The energy and wit, integral features of any hit comedy, are somewhat mellowed. However, the film still tries its best to be in the parody genre of classics like Alien, Star Wars, and Star Trek. These attempts are indeed coarse at times, but offer a fresh take on the familiar themes. One of the strong points of Galaxina is the rich details that show a universe full of intriguing stories waiting to be told. These elements make the film's plot detailed, so viewers keep thinking about it long after it ends. Be it wondering about Galaxina and Thor's future, or referring to the bike cult when coming across a Harley-Davidson, the movie will keep you thinking. The titular character Galaxina is a peculiarly interesting android with lots of potential. Her development as just a sensual character does not do justice to highlight her intricacies. yet her presence tends a likable quality to the film. Her character goes through major changes and growths, which however seems underdeveloped. Nevertheless, Galaxina's evolution leaves a lot of room for audiences to relish her charming beauty and the creative vision of the makers. Looking back, Galaxina's space visuals from the 1980s seem to align with the special effects tone of that period, bringing back nostalgia in many viewers. It may not be extremely amusing or substantive, but it's nonetheless an original piece of its day. Even with its flaws, there are some really great scenes and plot twists in the movie. These fleeting but entertaining sequences highlight the film's artistic potential. Sarcasm, humor, witty dialogue, and visual comedy prevail throughout the film. But let me be clear, Galaxina is a B movie in every way possible. However, it's a delectable B film. Marvelous verdict. If I dare say, Galaxina is definitely Dorothy Stratton's supremacy. I mean, she is indeed the star of this chaotic space drama, pun intended. Though the narrative might seem confusing and lagging at times, the movie makes it up with its heartfelt visuals and harmless spoofs of the celebrated sci-fi of the time. With a group of interesting cast and characters who all do well in their job, this movie will surely ring a bell for the fans of galactic movies. Do check this movie out and let us know your favorite part from Infinity's adventure in the comments below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.